Invisible Man by Ralph Ellison, Vintage International. Chapter 17. 4 months later, when Brother Jack called the apartment at midnight to tell me to be prepared to take a ride, I became quite excited. Fortunately, I was awake and dressed, and when he drove up a few minutes later, I was waiting expectantly at the curb. Maybe, I thought, as I saw him hunched behind the wheel in his topcoat, this is what I've been waiting for. "How have you been, brother?" I said, getting in. "A little tired," he said. "Not enough sleep. Too many problems." Then as he got the car underway, he became silent, and I decided not to ask any questions. That was one thing I had learned thoroughly. There must be something doing at the Cliftonian, I thought, watching him staring at the road as though lost in thought. Maybe the brothers are waiting to put me through my paces. If so, fine. I've been waiting for an examination. But instead of going to the Cliftonian, I looked out to discover that he had brought me to Harlem and was parking the car. "We'll have a drink," he said, getting out and heading for where the neon-lighted sign of a bull's head announced the El Toro bar. I was disappointed. I wanted no drink. I wanted to take the next step that lay between me and an assignment. I followed him inside with a surge of irritation. The bar room was warm and quiet. The usual rows of bottles with exotic names were lined on the shelves. And in the rear, where four men argued in Spanish over glasses of beer, a jukebox, lit up green and red, played Media Lutz. And as we waited for the bartender, I tried to figure the purpose of the trip. I had seen very little of Brother Jack after beginning my studies with Brother Hambro. My life had been too tightly organized, but I should have known that if anything was going to happen, Brother Hambro would have let me know. Instead, I was to meet him in the morning as usual. That Hambro, I thought, is he a fanatic teacher? A tall, friendly man, a lawyer, and the Brotherhood's chief theoretician. He had proved to me to be a hard taskmaster. Between daily discussions with him and a rigid schedule of reading, I had been working harder than I'd ever found necessary at college. Even my nights were organized. Every evening found me at some rally or meeting in one of the many districts, though this was my first trip to Harlem since my speech, where I'd sit on the platform with the speakers, making notes to be discussed with him the next day. Every occasion became a study situation, even the parties that sometimes followed the meetings. During these, I had to make mental notes on the ideological attitudes revealed in the guests' conversations. But I had soon learned the method in it. Not only had I been learning the many aspects of the Brotherhood's policy and its approach to various social groupings, but the citywide membership had grown familiar with me. My part in the eviction was kept very much alive, and I was under orders to make no speeches. I had grown accustomed to being introduced as a kind of hero. Yet it had been mainly a time for listening, and being a talker, I had grown impatient. Now I knew most of the Brotherhood arguments so well, those I doubted as well as those I believed, that I could repeat them in my sleep. But nothing had been said about my assignment. Thus I had hoped the midnight call meant some kind of action was to begin. Beside me, Brother Jack was still lost in thought. He seemed in no hurry to go elsewhere or to talk. And as the slow-motion bartender mixed our drinks, I puzzled vainly as to why he had brought me here. Before me, in the panel where a mirror is usually placed, I could see a scene from a bullfight. The bull charging close to the man, and the man swinging the red cape in sculpted folds so close to his body that man and bull seemed to blend in one swirl of calm, pure motion. Pure grace, I thought, looking above the bar to where, larger than life, the pink and white image of a girl smiled down from a summary beer ad on which a calendar said April 1. Then as our drinks were placed before us, Brother Jack came alive. His mood changed as though in the instant he had settled whatever had been bothering him and felt suddenly free. "Here, come back," he said, nudging me playfully. "She's only a cardboard image of a cold steel civilization." I laughed, glad to hear him joking. "And that," I said, pointing to the bullfight scene, "sheer barbarism," he said, watching the bartender and lowering his voice to a whisper. "But tell me, how have you found your work with Brother Hambro?" "Oh, fine," I said. "He's strict, but if I'd had teachers like him in college, I'd know a few things. He's taught me a lot, but whether enough to satisfy the brothers who disliked my arena speech, I don't know. Shall we converse scientifically?" He laughed, one of his eyes glowing brighter than the other. "Don't worry about the brothers," he said. "You'll do very well. Brother Hambro's reports on you have been excellent." "Now, that's nice to hear," I said, aware now of another bullfight seen further down the bar, in which the matador was being swept skyward on the black bull's horns. "I've worked pretty hard trying to master the ideology." "Master it?" Brother Jack said. But don't overdo it. Don't let it master you. There is nothing to put the people to sleep like dry ideology. The ideal is to strike a medium between ideology and inspiration. Say what the people want to hear, but say it in such a way that they'll do what we wish." He laughed. "Remember, too, that theory always comes after practice. Praxis. Act first, theorize later." That's also a formula, a devastatingly effective one. He looked at me as though he did not see me, and I could not tell whether he was laughing at me or with me. I was sure only that he was laughing. "Yes," I said, "I'll try to master all that is required." "You can," he said. "And now you don't have to worry about the brothers' criticism. Just throw some ideology back at them and they'll leave you alone, provided, of course, that you have the right backing and produce the required results. Another drink?" "Thanks, I've had enough." "Are you sure?" "Sure." "Good. Now to your assignment. Tomorrow, you are to become chief spokesman of the Harlem district." "Harlem?" "What?" "Yes, the committee decided yesterday. But I had no idea." "You'll do all right. Now listen, you are to continue what you started at the eviction. Keep them stirred up. Get them active. Get as many to join as possible. You'll be given guidance by some of the older members, but for the time being, you are to see what you can do. You will have freedom of action, and you will be under strict discipline to the committee. I see, I said. No, you don't quite see, he said, but you will. You must not underestimate the discipline, brother. It makes you answerable to the entire organization for what you do. Don't underestimate the discipline. It is very strict, but within its framework, you are to have full freedom to do your work. And your work is very important, understand? His eyes seemed to crowd my face as I nodded yes. We'd better go now so that you can get some sleep, he said, draining his glass. You're a soldier now. Your health belongs to the organization. I'll be ready, I said. I know you will. Until tomorrow, then. You'll meet with the executive committee of the Harlem section at 9 a.m. You know the location, of course. No, brother, I don't. Oh, that's right. Then you better come up with me for a minute. I have to see someone there, and you can take a look at where you'll work. I'll drop you off on the way down, he said. The district offices were located in a converted church structure, the main floor of which was occupied by a pawn shop, its windows crammed with loot that gleamed dully in the darkened street. We took a stair to the third floor, entering a large room beneath a high Gothic ceiling. It's down here, Brother Jack said, making for the end of the large room where I saw a row of smaller ones, only one of which was lighted. And now I saw a man appear in the door and limp forward. Evening, Brother Jack, he said. Why, Brother Tarp. I expected to find Brother Tobit or Tobias. I know. He was here, but he had to leave, the man said. He left this envelope for you and said he'd call you later on tonight. Good, Brother Jack said. Here, meet a new brother. Pleased to meet you, the brother said, smiling. I heard you speak at the arena. You really told him. Thanks, I said. So you like it, did you? So you liked it, did you, Brother Tarp? Brother Jack said. The boy's all right with me, the man said. Well, you're going to see a lot of him. He's your new spokesman. That's fine, the man said. Looks like we're going to get some changes made. Correct, Brother Jack said. Now let's take a look at his office, and we'll be going. Sure, brother, Tarp said, limping before me into one of the dark rooms and snapping on a light. This here is the one. I looked into a small office containing a flat-top desk with a telephone, a typewriter on its table, a bookcase with shelves of books and pamphlets, and a huge map of the world inscribed with ancient nautical signs, and a heroic figure of Columbus to one side. If there's anything you need, just see Brother Tarp, Brother Jack said. He's here at all times. Thanks, I shall, I said. I'll get oriented in the morning. Yes, and we'd better go so you can get some sleep. Good night, Brother Tarp. See that everything is ready for him in the morning. He won't have to worry about a thing, brother. Good night. It's because we attract men like Brother Pratt there that we shall triumph, he said as we climbed into the car. He's old physically, but ideologically, he's a vigorous young man. He can be depended upon in the most precarious circumstance. He sounds like a good man to have around, I said. You'll see, he said, and lapsed into a silence that lasted until we reached my door. The committee was assembled in the hall with the high Gothic ceiling when I arrived, sitting in folding chairs around two small tables pushed together to form a unit. Well, Brother Jack said, you are on time. Very good. We Germans favor precision in our leaders. Brother, I shall always try to be on time, I said. Here he is, brothers and sisters, he said, your new spokesman. Now to begin. Are we all present? All except Brother Todd Clifton, someone said. His red head jerked with surprise. So? He'll be here, a young brother said. We were working until 3 this morning. Still, he should be on time. Very well, Brother Jack said, taking out a watch. Let us begin. I have only a little time here, but a little time is all that is needed. You all know the events of the recent period and the role our new brother has played in them. Briefly, you are here to see that it isn't wasted. We must achieve 2 things. We must plan methods of increasing the effectiveness of our agitation, and we must organize the energy that has already been released. This calls for a rapid increase of membership. The people are fully aroused. If we fail to lead them into action, they will become passive, or they will become cynical. Thus, it is necessary that we strike immediately and strike hard. For this purpose, he said, nodding toward me, our brother has been appointed district spokesman. You are to give him your loyal support and regard him as the new instrument of the committee's authority. I heard the slight applause splatter up, only to halt with the opening of the door. And I looked down past the rows of chairs to where a hatless young man about my own age was coming into the hall. He wore a heavy sweater and slacks, and as the others looked up, I heard the quick intake of a woman's pleasurable sigh. Then the young man was moving with an easy Negro stride out of the shadow into the light, and I saw that he was very black and very handsome, and as he advanced mid-distance into the room, that he possessed the chiseled, black marble features sometimes found on statues in northern museums, and alive in southern towns in which the white offspring of house children and the black offspring of yard children bear names. Features and character traits as identical as the rifling of bullets fired from a common barrel. And now close up, leaning tall and relaxed, his arms outstretched stiffly upon the table, I saw the broad, taut span of his knuckles upon the dark grain of the wood, the muscular, sweatered arms, the curving line of the chest rising to the easy pulsing of his throat, to the square, smooth chin, and a small shaped patch of adhesive upon the subtly blended, velvet over stone, granite over bone, Afro-Anglo-Saxon contour of his cheek. He leaned there, looking at us all with a remote aloofness in which I sensed an unstated, questioning breath, beneath a friendly charm. Sensing a possible rival, I watched him warily, wondering who he was. So, Brother Todd Clifton is late, Brother Jack said. Our leader of the youth is late. Why is this? The young man pointed to his cheek and smiled. I had to see the doctor, he said. What is this? Brother Jack said, looking at the cross of adhesive on the black skin. Just a little encounter with the nationalists, with Rass the exhorter. With Rass the exhorters, boys, Brother Clifton said. And I heard a gasp from one of the women who gazed at him with shining, compassionate eyes. Brother Jack gave me a quick look. Brother, you have heard of Rass. He is the wild man who calls himself a black nationalist. I don't recall so, I said. You'll hear of him soon enough. Sit down, Brother Clifton, sit down. You must be careful. You are valuable to the organization. You must not take chances. This was unavoidable, the young man said. Just the same, Brother Jack said, returning to the discussion with a call for ideas. Brother, are we still to fight against evictions? I said. It has become a leading issue, thanks to you. Then why not step up the fight? He studied my face. What do you suggest? Well, since it has attracted so much attention, why not try to reach the whole community with the issue? And how would you suggest we go about it? I suggest we get the community leaders on record in support of us. There are certain difficulties in face of this, Brother Jack said. Most of the leaders are against us. But I think he's got something there, Brother Clifton said. What if we got them to support the issue, whether they like us or not? The issue is a community issue. It's non-partisan. Sure, I said. That's how it looks to me. With all the excitement over evictions, they can't afford to come out against us, not without appearing to be against the best interest of the community. So we have them across the barrel, Clifton said. That is perspective enough, Brother Jack said. The others agreed. That is perceptive enough, Brother Jack said. The others agreed. You see, Brother Jack said with a grin, we've always avoided these leaders, but the moment we start to advance on a broad front, sectarianism becomes a burden to be cast off. Any other suggestions? He looked around. Brother, I said, remembering now, when I first came to Harlem, one of the first things that impressed me was a man making a speech from a ladder. He spoke very violently and with an accent, but he had an enthusiastic audience. Why can't we carry our program to the street in the same way? So you have met him, he said, suddenly grinning. Well, Rass the Exhorter has had a monopoly in Harlem. But now that we are larger, we might give it a try. What the committee wants is results. So that was Rass the exhorter, I thought. Well, what trouble with the extorter? Well, we'll have trouble with the extorter, the exhorter, a big woman said. His hoodlums would attack and denounce the white meat of a roasted chicken. We laughed. He goes wild when he sees black people and white people together, she said to me. We'll take care of that, Brother Clifton said, touching his cheek. Very well, but no violence, Brother Jack said. The Brotherhood is against violence and terror and provocation of any kind. Aggressive, that is. Understand, Brother Clifton? I understand, he said. We will not countenance any aggressive violence, understand? Nor attacks upon officials or others who do not attack us. We are against all forms of violence. Do you understand? Yes, brother, I said. Very well. Having made this clear, I leave you now, he said. See what you can accomplish. You'll have plenty support from other districts and all the guidance you need. Meanwhile, remember that we are all under discipline. He left and we divided the labor. I suggested that each work in the area he knew best, since there was no liaison between the Brotherhood and the community leaders. I assigned myself the task of creating one. It was decided that our street meetings began immediately and that Brother Todd Clifton was to return and go over the details with me. While the discussion continued, I studied their faces. They seemed absorbed with the cause and in complete agreement, blacks and whites. But when I tried to place them as to type, I got nowhere. The big woman who looked like a southern suds buster was in charge of women's work and spoke in abstract ideological terms. The shy-looking man with the liver splotches on his neck spoke with a bold directness and eagerness for action. And this Brother Todd Clifton, the young leader, looked somehow like a hipster, a zoot suiter, a sharpie, except his head of Persian lamb's wool had never known a straightener. I could place none of them. They seemed familiar, but were just as different as Brother Jack and the other whites were from all the white men I had known. They were all transformed, like familiar people seen in a dream. Well, I thought, I'm different too, and they'll see it when the talk is finished and the action begins. I'll just have to be careful not to antagonize anyone. As it is, someone might resent my being placed in charge. But when Brother Todd Clifton came into my office to discuss the street meeting, I saw no signs of resentment, but a complete absorption in the strategy of the meeting. With great care, he went about instructing me how to deal with hecklers, on what to do if we were attacked, and upon how to recognize our own members from the rest of the crowd. For all his seeming zoot suiter characteristics, his speech was precise, and I had no doubt that he knew his business. How do you think we'll do? I said when he had finished. It'll go big, man, he said. It'll be bigger than anything since Garvey. I wish I could be so sure, I said. I never saw Garvey. I didn't either, he said, but I understand that in Harlem he was very big. Well, we're not Garvey. And he didn't last. No. But he must have had something, he said with sudden passion. He must have had something to move all those people. Our people are hell to move. He must have had plenty. I looked at him. His eyes were turned inward. Then he smiled. Don't worry, he said. We have a scientific plan, and you set them off. Things are so bad they'll listen, and when they listen, they'll go along. I hope so, I said. They will. You haven't been around the movement as I have for 3 years now, and I can feel the change. They're ready to move. I hope your feelings are right, I said. They're right, all right, he said. All we have to do is gather them in. The evening was almost of a winter coldness. The corner well lighted, and the all-Negro crowd large and tightly packed. Up on the ladder, now I was surrounded by a group of Clifton's young youth division, the Mole, and I could see beyond their backs with upturned collars the faces of the doubtful, the curious, and the convinced in the crowd. It was early, and I threw my voice hard down against the traffic sounds, feeling the damp coldness of the air upon my cheeks and hands as my voice warmed with my emotions. With my emotion, I had just begun to feel the pulsing set upon myself and the people, hearing them answer in staccato applause and agreement with Todd Clifton when Todd Clifton caught my eye, pointing. And over the heads of the crowd and down past the dark storefronts and blinking neon signs, I saw a bristling band of about 20 men quick stepping forward. I looked down. It's trouble. Keep talking, Clifton said. Give the boys the signal. My brothers, the time has come for action, I shouted. And now I saw the youth members and some older men move around to the back of the crowd and up to meet the advancing group. Then something sailed up out of the dark and landed hard against my forehead, and I felt the crowd surge in close, sending the ladder moving backwards, and I was like a man tottering above a crowd on stilts, then dropping backwards into the street and clear. Hearing the ladder clatter down, they were milling in a panic now, and I saw Clifton beside me. It's Rass the Exhorter, he yelled. Can you use your hands? I can use my fists. I was annoyed. Well, all right then. Here's your chance. Come on, let's see you duke. He moved forward and seemed to dive into the whirling crowd, and I beside him, seeing them scatter into doorways and pound off in the dark. There's Rass over there, Clifton cried. And I heard the sound of breaking glass, and the street went dark. Someone had knocked out the light, and through the dimness I saw Clifton heading to where a red neon sign glowed in a dark window as something went past my head. Then a man ran up with a length of pipe, and I saw Clifton close with him, ducking down and working in close and grabbing the man's wrist and twisting suddenly like a soldier executing an about face so that now he faced me, the back of the man's elbow rigid against his shoulder, and the man rising on tiptoe and screaming as Clifton straightened smoothly and levered down on the arm. I heard a dry popping sound and saw the man sag, and the pipe rang upon the walk. Then someone caught me hard in the stomach, and suddenly I knew that I was fighting too. I went to my knees and rolled and pulled erect, facing him. "Get up, Uncle Tom," he said, and I clipped him. He had his hands, and I had mine, and the match was even, but he was not so lucky. He wasn't down, and he wasn't out, but I caught him 2 good ones, and he decided to fight elsewhere. When he turned, I tripped him and moved away. The fight was moving back into the dark where the street lights had been knocked out clear to the corner, and it was quiet except for the grunting and straining and the sound of footfalls and of blows. It was confusing in the dark, and I couldn't tell ours from theirs and moved cautiously, trying to see. Someone up the street in the dark yelled, "Break it up! Break it up!" And I thought, "Cops!" and looked around for Clifton. The neon sign glowed mysteriously, and there was a lot of running and cursing. And now I saw him working skillfully in a store lobby before a red "Checks cashed here" sign, and I hurried over, hearing objects sailing past my head and the crash of glass. Clifton's arms were moving in short, accurate jabs against the head and stomach of Rass the Exhorter, punching swiftly and scientifically, careful not to knock him into the window or strike the glass with his fists. Working Rass between rights and lefts, jabbed so fast that he rocked like a drunken bull from side to side. And as I came up, Rass tried to bull his way out, and I saw Clifton drive him back and down into a squat, his hands upon the dark floor of the lobby, his heels back against the door like a runner against starting blocks. And now, shooting forward, he caught Clifton coming in, butting him, and I heard the burst of breath, and Clifton was on his back, and something flashed in Rass's hand, and he came forward, a short, heavy figure, as well as the lobby now, as wide as, and he came forward, a short, heavy figure, as wide as the lobby now, with the knife, moving deliberately. I spun, looking for the length of pipe, diving for it and crawling on hands and knees, and here, and coming up to see Rass reach down, getting one hand into Clifton's collar, the knife in the other, looking down at Clifton and panting, bull angry. I froze, seeing him draw back the knife and stop it in midair, draw back and stop, cursing, then draw back and stop again, all very quickly, beginning to cry now and talking rapidly at the same time, and me easing slowly forward. "Man," Rass blurted, "I ought to kill you. God damn, I ought to kill you and the world be better off. But you black man, we be black man. I swear I ought to kill you. No man strike the Exhorter. God damn it, no damn, no man." I saw him raise the knife again, and now as he lowered it unused, he pushed Clifton into the street and stood over him, sobbing. "Why you with these white folks? Why? I been watching you a long time. I say to myself, soon he get smart and get tired. He get out of that thing. Why a good boy like you still with them?" Still moving forward, I saw his face gleam with red, angry tears as he stood above Clifton, with the still innocent knife and the tears red in the glow of the window sign. You my brother, man. Brothers are the same color. How the hell you call these white men brother? Shit, man. That's shit. Brothers the same color. We sons of Mama Africa. You done forgot? You black. Black! You... Goddamn, man, he said, swinging the knife for emphasis. You got bad hair. You got thick lips. They say you stink. They hate you, man. You African. African. Why you with them? Leave that shit, man. They sell you out. That shit is old-fashioned. They enslave us. You forget that? How can they mean a black man any good? How they going to be your brother? I had reached him now and brought the pipe down hard, seeing the knife fly off into the dark as he grabbed his wrist. And I raised the pipe again, suddenly hot with fear and hate, as he looked at me out of his narrow little eyes, standing his ground. And you, man, the exhorter said, a regular little black devil, a goddamn sly mongoose. Where you think you from? Going with the white folks? I know, goddamn, don't I know it? You from down south? You from Trinidad? You from Barbados? Jamaica? South Africa? And the white man's foot in your ass all the way to the hip? What you trying to deny by betraying the black people? Why you fight against us? You young fellows. You young black men with plenty education. I been hearing your rabble rousing. Why you go over to the enslaver? What kind of education is that? What kind of black man is that who betray his own mama? Shut up, Clifton said, leaping to his feet. Shut up. Hell no, Rass cried, wiping his eyes with his fist. I talk. Bust me with the pipe, but by God you listen to the exhorter. Come in with us, man. We build a glorious movement of black people. Black people. What they do, give you money? Who want the damn stuff? Their money bleed black blood, man. It's unclean. Taking their money is shit, man. Money without dignity, that's bad shit. Clifton lunged toward him. I held him, shaking my head. Come on. The man's crazy, I said, pulling on his arm. Rass struck his thigh with his fist. Me crazy, man? You call me crazy? Look at you two, and look at me. This is sanity? Is that consciousness? Scientific understanding? Is that the modern black man of the 20th century? Hell, man. Is it self-respect? Black against black? What they give you to portray? Their women? You fall for that? Let's go, I said, listening and remembering and suddenly alive in the dark with the horror of the battle royale. But Clifton looked at Rass with a tight, fascinated expression, pulling away from me. Let's go, I repeated. He stood there, looking. Sure, you go, Rass said, but not him. You contaminated. But he the real black man. In Africa, this man be a chief, a black king. Here they say he raped them goddamn women with no blood in their veins. I bet this man can't beat them off with a baseball bat. Shit. What kind of foolishness is it? Kick his ass from cradle to grave, then call him brother? Does it make mathematics? Is it logic? Look at him, man. Open your eyes, he said to me. I look like that I rock the blasted world. They know about me in Japan, India, all the colored countries. Youth, intelligence, the man's natural prince. Where is your eyes? Where's your self-respect working for them damn people? Their days is numbered. The time is almost here, and you fooling round this like this was the 19th century. I don't understand you. Am I ignorant? Answer me, man. Yes, Clifton burst out. Hell yes. You think I'm crazy? Is it guess I speak bad English? Hell, it ain't my mama tongue, man. I'm African. You really think I'm crazy? Yes. Yes. You believe that? Said Rass. What they do to you, black man? Give you them stinking women? Clifton lunged again, and again I grabbed him, and again Rass held his ground, his head glowing red. Women? Goddamn man? Is that equality? Is that the black man's freedom? A pat on the back and a piece of cunt with no passion? Maggots. They buy you that blasted cheap man? What they do to my people? Where is your brains? These women dregs, man. They bow watered. You know the high-class white man hates the black man. That's simple. So now he used the dregs and want you black men to do his dirty work? They betray you and you betray the black people. They tricking you, man. Let them fight against themselves. Let them kill off one another. We organize. Organization is good, but we organize black. To hell with that son of a bitch. He take one them strumpets and tell the black man his freedom lie between her skinny legs. While that son of a gun, he take all the power and the capital and don't leave the black man nothing. The good white woman, he tell the black man is a rapist and keep them locked up and ignorant while he makes the black man a race of bastards. When the black man going to tire of this childish perfidy, he got you so you don't trust your black intelligence. You young, don't play yourself cheap, man. Don't deny yourself. It took 1 billion gallons of black blood to make you. Recognize you self inside and you won the king's man. Recognize yourself inside and you won the kings among men. A man knows he's a man when he's got nothing, when he's naked. Nobody have to tell him that. You 6 foot tall man, you young and intelligent, you black and beautiful. Don't let 'em tell you different. You wasn't them things, you be dead. Man, dead. I'd have killed you, man. Rass the exhorter raised up his knife and tried to do it, but he could not do it. Why don't you do it? I asked myself. I will do it now, I say. But something tell me, no, you might be killing your black king. And I say, yes. So I accept your humiliating action. Rass recognize your black possibilities, man. Rass would not sacrifice his black brother to the white enslaver. Instead, he cried. Rass is a man. No white man have to tell him that, and Rass cried. So why don't you recognize your black duty, man, and come join us? His chest was heaving, and a need of pleading. His chest was heaving, and a note of pleading had come into his harsh voice. He was an exhorter, all right, and I was caught in the crude, insane eloquence of his plea. He stood there, awaiting an answer. and suddenly a big transport plane came low over the buildings, and I looked up to see the firing of its engine, and we were all three silent, watching. Suddenly the exhorter shook his fist toward the plane and yelled, "Hell with him! Someday we have them too! Hell with him!" He stood there, shaking his fist as the plane rattled the buildings in its powerful flight. Then it was gone, and I looked about the unreal street. They were fighting far up the block in the dark now, and we were alone. I looked at the exhorter. I didn't know if I was angry or amazed. "Look," I said, shaking my head, "let's talk sense. From now on, we'll be on the street corners every night, and we'll be prepared for trouble. We don't want it, especially with you. But we won't run either." "Goddamn, man," he said, leaping forward. "This is Harlem. This is my territory, the black man's territory. You think we let white folks come in here and spread their poison? Let them come in like they come and take over the numbers racket, like they have all the stores? Talk sense, man. If you talking to us, talk sense." "This is sense," I said, "and you listen as we listen to you. We'll be out here every night, understand? We'll be out here, and the next time you go after one of our brothers with a knife, I mean white or black, we won't forget it." He shook his head. "Nor will I forget you either, man. Don't. I don't want you to, because if you forget, there'll be trouble." "You're mistaken. Don't you see you're outnumbered? You need allies to win." "That there is sense. Black allies, yellow and brown allies. All men who want a brotherly world," I said. "Don't be stupid, man. They white. They don't have to be allies with no black people. They got what they want. They turn against you. Where's your black intelligence?" "Thinking like that will get you lost in the backwash of history," I said. "Start thinking with your mind and not with your emotions." He shook his head vehemently, looking at Clifton. "This black man talking to me about brains and thinking? I ask both of you, are you awake or sleeping? What is your past, and where are you going? Never mind. Take your corrupt ideology and eat out your own guts like a laughing hyena. You are nowhere, man. Nowhere. Rass is not ignorant, nor is Rass afraid. No, Rass, he be here black and fighting for the liberty of the black people when the white folks have got what they want and done gone off laughing in your face, and you stinking and choked up with white maggots." He spat angrily into the dark street. It flew pink in the red glow. "That'll be all right with me," I said. "Only remember what I said. Come on, Brother Clifton. This man's full of pus. Black pus." We started away. A piece of glass crunched under my foot. "Maybe so," Rass said, "but I am no fool. I am no black educated fool who thinks everything between black man and white man can be settled with some blasted lies and some bloody books written by the white man in the first place. It's 300 years of black blood to build this white man's civilization, and one be wiped out in a minute. Black calls for blood. You remember that. And remember that I am not like you. Rass recognized the true issues, and he is not afraid to be black, nor is he a traitor for white men. Remember that. I am no black traitor." To the black people for the white people. And before I could answer, Clifton spun in the dark and there was a crack and I saw Rass go down and Clifton breathing hard and Rass lying there in the street, a thick black man with red tears on his face that caught the reflection of the checks cashed here sign. And again, as Clifton looked gravely down, he seemed to ask a silent question. "Let's go," I said. "Let's go." We started away as the screams of sirens sounded, Clifton cursing quietly to himself. Then we were out of the dark onto a busy street, and he turned to me. There were tears in his eyes. "That poor, misguided son of a bitch," he said. "He thinks a lot of you too," I said. I was glad to be out of the dark and away from that exhorting voice. "That man's crazy," Clifton said. "It'll run you crazy if you let it." "Where'd he get that name?" I said. "He gave it to himself." I guess he did. Rass is a title of respect in the East. It's a wonder he didn't say something about Ethiopia stretching forth her wings. He said, mimicking Rass. "He makes it sound like the hood of a cobra fluttering." I don't know. "We'll have to watch him now," I said. "Yes, we'd better," he said. "He won't stop fighting. And thanks for getting rid of his knife." "You don't have to worry," I said. "He wouldn't kill his king." He turned and looked at me as though he thought I might mean it. Then he smiled. "For a while there, I thought I was gone," he said. And we headed for the district office. I wondered what Brother Jack would say about the fight. "We'll have to overpower him with organization," I said. "We'll do that all right. But it's on the inside that Rass is strong," Clifton said. "On the inside, he's dangerous." "He won't get on the inside," I said. "He'd consider himself a traitor." "No," Clifton said. "He won't get on the inside." "Did you hear how he was talking? Did you hear what he was saying?" "I heard him, sure," I said. "I don't know," he said. "I suppose sometimes a man has to plunge outside history." "What?" "Plunge outside. Turn his back. Otherwise, he might kill somebody. Go nuts." I didn't answer. Maybe he's right. I thought and was suddenly very glad I had found brotherhood. Anu V6 116 after Cairo, Sol 4 degrees Virgo, Luna 1 degrees Capricorn, Dies Jovis or Friday, August 27th, 2020, Era Vulgaris, 1:31 p.m., hour of the moon, 93. The next morning, it rained, and I reached the district before the others arrived and stood looking through the window of my office, past the jutting wall of a building, and on beyond the monotonous pattern of its bricks and mortar. I saw a row of trees rising and graceful in the rain. One tree grew close by, and I could see the rain streaking its bark and its sticky buds. Trees were rowed the length of the long block beyond me, rising tall and dripping wetness above the series of cluttered backyards. And it occurred to me that cleared of its ramshackle fences and planted with flowers and grass, it might form a pleasant park. And just then a paper bag sailed from a window to my left and burst like a silent grenade, scattering garbage into the trees and pancaking to the earth with a soggy, exalted plop. I started with disgust, then thought, the sun will shine in those backyards someday. A community cleanup campaign might be worthwhile for a slack season at that. Everything couldn't possibly be as exciting as last night. Turning back to my desk, I sat facing the map now as Brother Pratt appeared. "Morning, son. I see you already on the job," he said. "Good morning. I have so much to do that I thought I'd better get started early," I said. "You'll do all right," he said, "but I didn't come in here to take up your time. I want to put something on the wall." "Go right ahead. Can I give you a hand?" "No, I can make it all right," he said, clambering with his lame leg upon a chair that sat beneath the map and hanging a frame from the ceiling molding, straightening it carefully and getting down to come over beside my desk. "Son, you know who that is?" "Why, yes," I said. "It's Frederick Douglass. "Yes, sir. That's just who it is." "You know much about him?" "Not much. My grandfather used to tell me about him, though. That's enough. He was a great man. You just take a look at him once in a while. You have everything you need. Paper and stuff like that." "Yes, I have, Brother Pratt, and thanks for the portrait of Douglas." "Don't thank me, son," he said from the door. "He belongs to all of us." I sat now facing the portrait of Frederick Douglass, feeling a sense of piety, remembering and refusing to hear the echoes of my grandfather's voice. Then I picked up the telephone and began calling the community leaders. They fell in line like prisoners. Preachers, politicians, various professionals, proving Clifton correct. The eviction fight was such a dramatic issue that most of the leaders feared that their followers would have rallied to us without them. I slighted no one, no matter how unimportant. Big shots, doctors, real estate men, and storefront preachers. And it went so fast and smoothly that it seemed not to happen to me, but to someone who actually bore my new name. I almost laughed into the phone when I heard the director of Men's House address me with profound respect. My new name was getting around. It's very strange, I thought. But things are so unreal for them normally that they believe that to call a thing by name is to make it so. And yet, I am what they think I am. Our work went so well that a few Sundays later we threw a parade that clinched our hold on the community. We worked feverishly, and now the clashing and conflict of my last days at Mary's seemed to have moved out into the struggles of the community, leaving me inwardly calm and controlled. Even the hustle and bustle of picketing and speech-making seemed to stimulate me for the better. My wildest ideas paid off. Upon hearing that one of the unemployed brothers was an ex-drill master from Wichita, Kansas, I organized a drill team of 6-footers whose duty it was to march through the streets striking up sparks with their hob-nailed shoes. On the day of the parade, they drew crowds faster than a dog fight on a country road. The People's Hot Foot Squad, we called them. And when they drilled fancy formations down 7th Avenue in the springtime dusk, they set the streets ablaze. The community laughed and cheered, and the police were dumbfounded. But the sheer corn of it, y'all haters corny with that, but the sheer corn of it got them, and the Hot Foot Squad went shuffling along. Then came the flags and banners, and the cards bearing slogans, and the squad of drum majorettes, the best-looking girls we could find, who pranced and twirled and just plain girled in the enthusiastic interest of the brotherhood. We pulled 15,000 Harlemites into the street behind our slogans and marched down Broadway to City Hall. Indeed, we were the talk of the town. With the success, I pushed forward at a dizzy pace. My name spread like smoke in an airless room. I was kept moving all over the place. Speeches here, there, everywhere, uptown and down. I wrote newspaper articles, led parades and relief delegations, and so on. And the Brotherhood was going out of its way to make my name prominent. Articles, telegrams, and many mailings went out over my signature, some of which I'd written, but most not. A break for Dharma at 1 hour, 7 minutes in chapter 17. The Old Astronomer to His People by Sarah Williams. From Best Loved Poems of the American People, Hazel Fellman, editors. Garden City Publishing Co., Garden City, New York, 1936, pages 613 to 614. The last line was used as an epitaph for an astronomer couple buried at Allegheny Observatory. Reach me down, my Tycho Brahe. I would know him when we meet. When I share my latter science, sitting humbly at his feet, he may know the law of all things, yet be ignorant of how. We are working to completion, working on from then to now. Pray remember that I leave you all my theory complete, lacking only certain data for your adding as is meet. And remember, men will scorn it, 'tis original and true, and the obliqua of newness may fall bitterly on you. But my pupil, as my pupil, you have learned the worth of scorn. You have laughed with me at pity. We have joyed to be forlorn. What for us are all distractions of men's fellowship and smiles? What for us the goddess pleasure with her meretricious smiles? You may tell that German college that their honor comes too late, but they must not waste repentance on the grisly savant's fate. Though my soul may set in darkness, it will rise in perfect light. I have loved the stars too fondly to be fearful of the night. Articles, telegrams, and many mailings went out over my signature, some of which I'd written, but most not. I was publicized, identified with the organization both by word and image in the press. On the way to work one late spring morning, I counted 50 greetings from people I didn't know. Becoming aware that there were two of me, the old self that slept a few hours a night and dreamed sometimes of my grandfather and Bledsoe and Brockway and Mary, the self that flew without wings and plunged from great heights, and the new public self that spoke for the brotherhood and was becoming so much more important than the other that I seemed to run a foot race against myself. Still, I liked my work. During those days of certainty, I kept my eyes wide and ears alert. The Brotherhood was a world within a world, and I was determined to discover all its secrets and to advance as far as I could. I saw no limits. It was the one organization in the whole country in which I could reach the very top, and I meant to get there. Even if it meant climbing a mountain of words, for now I had begun to believe, despite all the talk of science around me, that there was a magic in spoken words. Sometimes I sat watching the watery play of light upon Douglas's portrait, thinking how magical it was that he had talked his way from slavery to a government ministry, and so swiftly, like Joseph. Perhaps, I thought, something of a kind is happening to me. Douglas came north to escape and find work in the shipyards, a big fellow in a sailor suit who, like me, had taken another name. What had his true name been? Whatever it was as Douglas that he became himself and defined himself. Reader's note from Wikipedia. Frederick Douglass, born Frederick Augustus Washington Bailey, circa February 1818, and he passed on February 20th, 1895. In many traditions, the day you were born and day you die, if you pass on those days, you are considered a saint. And not as a boatwright as he'd expected, but as an orator. Perhaps the sense of magic lay in the unexpected transformations. You start Saul and end up Paul, my grandfather had said. When you're a youngin', you Saul, but let life whoop your head a bit and you start to trying to be Paul, though you still Sauls around the sides. No, you could never tell where you were going. That was a sure thing. The only sure thing. Nor could you tell how you'd get there, though when you arrived it was somehow right. For hadn't I started out with a speech, and hadn't it been speech that won my scholarship to college, where I had expected speech making to win me a place with Bledsoe and launched me finally as a national leader? Well, I had made a speech, and it had made me a leader, only not the kind I had expected. So that was the way it was. And no complaints, I thought, looking at the map. You started looking for red men, and you found them. Even though a different tribe and in a bright new world. The world was strange if you stopped to think about it. Still, it was a world that could be controlled by science. And the Brotherhood had both science and history under control. Thus, for one long stretch of time, I lived with the intensity displayed by those chronic numbers players who see clues to their fortune in the most minute and insignificant phenomena, in clouds, on passing trucks, cintas, and subway cars, in dreams, comic strips, the shape of dog luck found on the street, the shape of dog luck found on the pavements. I was dominated by the all-embracing idea of brotherhood. The organization had given the world a new shape, and me a vital role. We recognized no loose ends. Everything could be controlled by our science. Life was all pattern and discipline, and the beauty of discipline is when it works. And it was working very well.